Welcome to the Break Room. I'm Lucinda Underwood. On today's episode, we're talking all about what it takes to build a winning team. Joining me are my guests, Bogi Lateiner, master mechanic, speaker, educator, and industry advocate. She's the owner of Girls Garage and the host of With Her Two Hands podcast. Also joining me is Shaun Peet, co-founder of Deck Leadership, author of 12-Second Culture, and NASCAR pit crew head coach at Trackhouse Racing. So Shaun, Bogi, thank you so much for joining me and welcome to the Break Room. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Of course. So today's topic, we're talking all about building a winning team. You know, what it takes to recruit and retain the best talent, something both of you know a lot about. I really can't wait to kind of dig in and get some of your answers to the questions. I'm sure there's going to be some great advice there for our listeners. So let's start from that recruitment point of view. So how can shop owners really, what are some strategies they can use to recruit the best talent? Shaun, I'll come to you first on this question.
Yeah, I think that you start by getting really clear on who you want to win with. I think so many of us just default to, we went to this school or she went here or she, here at Trackhouse, we are enthusiasm over aptitude 100 out of 100 times. And what we do is we feel like you get the person with the right attitude coming through the door, regardless of what their training is, we're going to bet on our managers and the leaders in the company to get them where they need to be, right? We want people that bring energy because you win with people like that. And there's nothing worse than getting the seasoned pro from over here that comes in and destroys the culture in your garage, right? We at Trackhouse, there's no brilliant jerks because the cost to teamwork is simply too high. So, I really think it starts with getting very clear on, who you want to win with.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I love that. That whole mentality of hiring for attitude, training for aptitude is something I very strongly agree with. Bogi, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I 100% could not agree more. I could teach anybody how to turn a wrench, but I can't teach you how to give a damn. And so that is most crucial. But I would also say that in attracting the right talent too is this bigger question, like, techs could go anywhere to get a job. So why do they want to work for you? What makes your shop special? Why does that person with the great attitude and the great skill set or the great aptitude, why do they want to come to you? And I think it goes back to this deeper question of like, what are we winning? Like, what is the game that we're trying to win at? And is it something bigger than just fixing people's cars? Are you part of something bigger? What does winning look like? And what is that all about? Because if you want to attract people who care, then your company has to be about caring and have that be so integral to your culture. And you're going to then naturally attract that, right? When you stand for something bigger than just, every shop says, we fix cars right the first time. Like, well, that's kind of the bare minimum of what you need to do, right? Like you're setting the bar pretty low there. So when you stand for something bigger than that, then the good folks, they want to be a part of it. And they see a clear path for them to win because they see the clear path of what the company is doing to win. Like, what does that winning mean? Does that make sense?
That makes 100% sense. And there's a couple of words that stuck out. Both of you mentioned culture, right? Both of you talked about how important culture is. And I think the first step to that is know what your culture is like. Is it what you want? I think that has to be intentionally designed, right? And then Bogi talking about purpose. Is it clear what the goals are, right? And how they can win? Yeah, that's great answers on that question. Shaun, I don't know if you had anything else to add on that topic before we move on. But
I think Bogi's spot on. I mean, this next generation of kids coming through that are going to be the techs in your garage, they are purpose over purse strings. So you can't even incentivize the behavior. You better, like she said, they better feel like they're part of something bigger, right? Because the opposite of depression isn't happiness, it's purpose. And as human beings, like we're craving that. And you get the best out of people when that exists in your company or your business.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm so tired of hearing the older generation say that these young kids just don't want to work. They don't want to work hard. They don't want to this. They don't want to. That's not it at all. They will work hard if they see the reason, if they see the purpose, and if they can have a life balance. Like at the end of the day, I think this older generation is just jealous of them because these younger kids have the nerve to say, yes, I want to work, but I want to work for something that I believe in, and I'm willing to work really hard for it, but I also want to have life balance. And that's a
100%.
beautiful thing, right?
I
So
mean, it's healthy, right?
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
healthy. No, I couldn't agree more. Something I say a lot of the time, when I'm teaching groups is there's not many human beings that don't want to succeed. Right. Human nature is to want to succeed at what you're doing. Right. So if you've got somebody on your team that, you think doesn't give a damn or is just not interested, you might just need to find another way to create some interest, right? They might be motivated slightly differently. Yeah. And that actually, you know what, that leads on to the next question, because I really wanted to now move on to, what are the key elements once you get that talent? Okay, once you've attracted them and once you've got them into your shop, how do you retain them? What are your thoughts on that? Bogi, I'll come to you first on this one.
I mean, I think it's all the same thing, right? You attract them by having a great culture, by standing for something bigger than just fixing cars right the first time, by having a good work environment, by respecting your team, by valuing them. That's how we attract people. If it's not authentic, we won't retain them, right? But if it is authentic, you are going to retain them because you're involving them in something that is bigger. At the end of the day, like you said, nobody goes to work saying, you know what, I'm gonna be a real failure today. I'm gonna screw up at work. I'm gonna get myself fired, right? Like everybody wants to be successful. Nobody sets out to suck. And if they're failing, there's a reason, and you need to work with them to find out what that is. But if you have a good culture that allows people to thrive, that they see how to win, that they feel like they're a part of something and that they are valued and respected, right? Every employee wants to go to a place where they feel empowered, where they feel valued, they feel like they see themselves having an opportunity to grow and thrive, and that they feel like they belong, right? That's all that people want. And if you give them that, you will keep them. It's that simple, right?
Yeah. It's going back down to those human needs, right? Yeah, absolutely. Shaun, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to parallel what Bogi said. It's this simple: value people, and it costs $0 to value people. One of the things that I've always had to compete against is we have half the budget to compete with Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Racing. So we had to weaponize our culture. And oftentimes great design is a byproduct of restriction. So we had half the money. But we knew if we could value people, we could compete with these other teams because we could keep them. And so what does that look like? At Trackhouse, there's two things that we've used to great success. One was the after-work phone call, right? All of us work long days. But what if at the end of your long day when you're driving home, you call one of your shop mechanics and say, hey, look, I don't always get to say this, but thank you for everything you do in this garage. It doesn't go unnoticed, right? First of all, you're calling him at home outside of business hours, so you could be thinking about anything in the world that you want to be thinking of, okay? But you're thinking of him or her. Second, every phone call that you've received at home from your boss is probably bad news. What if you're the first boss that changes that narrative, right? And that hits people. When you catch people unexpected, that hits them different, and they feel valued. Another thing we use, and I'm a student of leadership, and Tom Osborne, when he was at the University of Nebraska, had a Rolodex on his desk, and it had every important date in his players' lives. So I loved it. So we adapted it. So when you get intake in at Trackhouse, we're going to know everything about you. And every company knows your birthday, right? We take it a step further. We know your birthday. We know your wife's birthday. We know your kid's birthday. We know your anniversaries. And basically, but 5 minutes before I go to practice, which could be 5 minutes for a shop owner before they step foot in work, my phone is going to alert me if it's any of those significant dates come up. So I have 30 athletes warming up, and I can put my hand on my Jackman and tell them, hey, look, don't forget to call your mom, it's her birthday today. That costs me nothing, right? And no, again, you're differentiating yourself from any boss they've ever had. We had a guy one day, he was out back and he was carrying tires, and it was his anniversary. And I was like, what is he still doing here? And the other coach is like, I don't know, man. So we went out and we're like, hey, Milan, you got to get out of here. It's your anniversary. And he goes, no, it's not. And we're like, yeah, it is. And this guy's wife is affectionately known as the warden, right? Not a lady you want to disappoint. And he's like, what's the date? And I'm like, it's May 16th. And this look of horror comes across his face, right? So we get him out of the building. We make reservations in Charlotte to get him dinner. He picks up flowers on the way home. His anniversary goes off like he never forgot it. How do you think he shows up to our shop the next day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you saved him. You saved him there. Yeah.
Just did. And that's what I mean. We call it inspiring human brilliance. And again, it costs $0 to care about people.
Yeah.
So Bogi's spot on what you said, value people if you want to keep them.
Like, so apparent in what you're saying, Shaun, is like, you're coming from a really authentic place. And I think that is one of the things that gets missed so much, is that people are like, oh, my management coach told me that I need to care about people. Okay. Hi, I appreciate you. Right. And if you actually care, then everything else becomes easy. Right. And Shaun's point about how little it costs, like, it amazes me how infrequently employees get thanked and get shown any sort of appreciation, that when it happens, it's so little. Like, it takes so little. And when it's authentic and really coming from a place of not just me saying I appreciate you because I was told to, but actually genuinely understanding that your team is what makes your company, and that they're what make everything happen, and that you genuinely appreciate them, then it comes through and it's apparent, and it is the cheapest thing. It is the most valuable thing.
Absolutely agree. And it's funny, I was going to pull on the word authentic as well, because I was thinking exactly the same thing, Shaun, when you were speaking there. And I think it's also just taking that action too, because yes, we might be driving home at night thinking, oh, so-and-so is doing a really wonderful job. I'm really, really happy. But then taking that next step and picking up the phone or sending a text and actually sharing those thoughts, right? Yep. And actually communicating them is huge. And actually this, what we're talking about here really leads really nicely onto the next subject as well, because we want to talk about, how do we elevate that employee experience? So obviously, we've talked about a couple of different sort of ideas and just the, that need for authenticity. And I was thinking something else. I'm going a slightly off script here, but I feel like you guys will be into it. I was thinking, Shaun, when you were speaking about, some of the things, especially your employee, that you reminded him it was his anniversary and those kind of things. This is what the type of thing we've been doing for customers for a long time, right? When we talk about customer experience, that's what I train in. We're always talking about get to know your customer, have that personalization. But it doesn't always transfer to the employee experience, does it? What are your thoughts on that? Shaun, go, yeah.
Yeah, my thoughts are that's a huge miss. Right?
Yeah.
Because if you have miserable employees, do you know what the customer experience is going to be? Miserable. Right? So why wouldn't you build the foundation of your house before you put the roof on it?
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what the customer is. And that's just it. You have employees that are bought in, that enjoy coming to work, that, you know what I mean? That is just going to translate right through the garage to the customer, right? It's not forced. When you go back to authentic, imagine showing up at a garage where people were excited to see you and be like, yeah, I would love to help you with your car, right? And I think that's where a lot of that starts. Like, you have to value these employees if you want to get the best out of them, because it's going to go right through to your customers, right? Like, the most forward-facing part in NASCAR isn't our drivers, right? Because a few important people get to meet them, but then they're strapped in the race car and they're going racing. So the most forward-facing part of our company on race day is the picker department. And so those guys and girls on our team, they're tasked with making sure that, you have a chance to make this the best day in someone's life. That's what we want you to do. And that's where that purpose comes in that Bogi alluded to. So again, I'm focusing on my employees before the customers, or else you might as well not even start.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
Take care of your employees, they will take care of your customers.
Yep.
And it is that simple. I was kind of similar to you, Listen. I was always teaching on the customer service side of things and working with shop owners on how they can provide better customer service. And then I would see this over and over and over again, where you see people in their advertisements and their flyers, they're like, we love people, we're all about people. And then you hear them in the background on the phone cursing at their employees, right? Like yelling at them to keep it down back there while they're like, oh, we love you, Mr. Customer. Like, clearly you don't actually care about people, because if you did care about people, you would care about all people, regardless of whether they were you were paying them or they were paying you, right? And so it has to be authentic. And when you take care of your team, they will take care of your customers 100%. I started teaching classes on how to take care of your team, and it's the same exact content. It's just worded towards internally, right? It's like there are internal customers. If we take care of our employees the way we would take care of our customers, magic happens.
Right.
Absolutely magic
And
happens.
at the end of the day, people are people, right? We haven't changed.
Right.
we are,
Right.
you know. And another kind of thought I was having while we were discussing that as well, and I think the authenticity ties to it, trust, right? We talk about how important, especially our industry, let's be honest. Trust is very, very important. We always talk about gaining the trust of the customer and making them feel kind of safe and they enjoy their experience and they trust your advice. We need to do the same with our employees, right? We need to build that same kind of level of relationship with them.
Well, I think here's where the opportunity is so great, and it's kind of an interesting thing. The bar has been set so low within the automotive industry for such a long time, right? The average consumer dreads going to the auto repair shop because the reputation, the bad reputation of auto repair shops has been around for a really long time, and we got the reputation for a reason. There were a lot of really crappy auto repair shops out there for a really long time, making a bad name for the industry. And so people dread going to the repair shop. And it takes so little to impress and wow the heck out of customers by simply treating them with respect and providing a shop environment that they feel welcome in and that they don't feel vulnerable and sketched out, and where they're treated respectfully and they're valued. The exact same thing is true for technicians. Technicians have been treated poorly in the automotive industry, undervalued, underappreciated, overlooked, treated like we're second-class citizens for a long time. And so again, the bar is really low. It takes very little to wow the heck out of a technician by simply creating an environment where they feel safe, where they feel valued, where they feel respected, where they have the right tools that they need, where they're given the opportunity to succeed and feel like they are an important member of the team. And that's it. The bar is so low. It takes so little to find great customers and great employees and wow the heck out of them.
Right. And provides such a great opportunity though, right? I mean, you know, loyalty is achieved when expectations are exceeded. So if the bar is low to begin with, great. You don't have as much hard work to do, right? Shaun, did you have anything you wanted to add on that? What are your thoughts?
No, I just think, trust happens when actions parallel words. And I think leadership's got to understand that if you say something to these guys and girls in your shop, you better come through. Because it only takes one time to erode that. It takes forever to build it, and you're very quick to lose it. So, that's the only thing I would add to that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, and obviously we're kind of going through the employee journey here. We're talking about the employee experience, how to retain them. But what are some other key factors that really go, maybe anything that we haven't covered, that go into building a winning team? Is there anything that we haven't discussed? Shaun, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, I think, great teams are born from intention. And one thing that, I travel over the country, and I work with Kubota and other dealerships down here. And one thing I implore them to do is have an expectations meeting. Because if great teams are born from intention, what do most companies do on January 2nd? Like the first work day of the calendar year, what do? It's just business as usual, right? But we want the people in our garage to meet an expectation or exceed an expectation, yet we never set the expectation. So one of the things we do here at Tracos is the first calendar day of the year, we sit down with the the expectations meeting. And it doesn't matter if you've been here a week or a decade, you're going to sit through it. And we're going to go through everything from your Twitter avatar to what color your belt can be at the racetrack to how you address people at the racetrack. And, there was a really interesting story, a bunch of years ago. The Chicago Cubs won the World Series, right? And this was after 100 years of not winning it, which isn't just a bad run. That's serious dysfunction, right? So they get a guy, Theo Epstein, they bring him in, and he's a baseball historian. And a bunch of years ago, the Dodgers wrote a book called The Dodgers Way, and it outlined everything the Dodgers wanted to do to play baseball. So Epstein went through the Cubs organization, and he asked every single person in that business, what would it take for us to win the World Series? So they come up with a list of about 3,500 things, and they call it the Cubs way. This is how the Cubs are going to do business, right? They go on, they win the World Series. Epstein's hailed as a hero, and the press can't wait to get to him. They get to him finally, and they're like, "You're a genius. How did you get all these things right?" And he laughed at him, and he said, "I didn't. I don't even think I got half of them right." But he said, the unintended consequence was that it caused intention in this team. Because you have great culture not when you as a leader have to come down on your techs. You have great culture when one tech takes another tech and says, "Hey, that's not how we do it in this garage." Right? And that starts with outlining the expectation.
Love that. Absolutely agree. Bogi, what's your thoughts?
I couldn't love that more.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with you. We talked about, the beginning, Shaun talked about who do we want to win with, and what are we trying to win? But knowing how to win, like what that looks like, right? It goes back to the nobody wakes up wanting to fail. But maybe they just don't know what that playbook looks like. And, when I'm bringing on a new technician into my shop, or if I'm hiring a new employee, it doesn't matter whether you're an apprentice or a 50-year technician. You still need to learn my playbook, right? How we do it here at this shop. And it's going to be different. And I also want to go, so Shaun was kind of talking about like how we look while we're trying to win the game. What does winning the game look like for us specifically? What do we wear? What do we say? How do we do things? But then it's also really important, I think, for the team and for individuals within the team to know what winning looks like for them individually. Right. And it's that goal setting thing. So to tag on to what Shaun said, and I have a feeling he probably does this too, is not just setting this is how we do things, these are the expectations, but what are our goals for this year? What do we want to focus on? What are the things, let's celebrate what we achieved last year. Right? Let's go through all of the things that we achieved as a shop, as a company, as a team. Let's celebrate that for a moment. And then what do we want to focus on this year? What are our most important priorities that we can all collectively get behind so we're all bought in and focused on these goals that we're going to set? And then individually working with each team member so they have their own personal goals, whether it's daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals. Having all of those things I think is great so that every day your team knows what winning looks like.
Yeah.
So that they can hit that, or at least reach for that goal mark.
Right. And having those personal goals as well. I'm thinking of a dealership in specifically I work with, and their sales team, obviously they set their budgets at the beginning of the year. They go through that process of, how many cars each individual is going to sell that year. But they also have all of their salespeople set personal goals. Things such as, I want to go with this place on vacation this year. I want to get my credit cards paid off. I'm getting married this year. Like something that's actually a personal goal that is directly tied to their job performance, right? And I think, when you involve people in that goal setting process, that's where you really get the engagement as well, right? And then the desire to win and the clear idea of what the goals are. And I think that's missing a lot of the time. Another word I was thinking about while you guys were talking was accountability. That's something we talk about a lot, isn't it? Holding teams accountable for achieving the goals you've set out for them. And that's really challenging to do if they don't fully understand the goal or how to get there. And it's not personally related to them, right? Have you guys ever experienced that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, if we haven't set our team up for success, then it's hard to hold them accountable, right? And so many team leaders, right? Shop owners, business owners, you name it, like they're not setting their team up for success. And then they wonder why the team can't do what they're supposed to do without being that overbearing boss, right? That boss that like meddles into everything and can't let go of control. It's like if you feel like you have to do all the things yourself, you haven't shown your team what winning looks like and how to win, right? If they don't know what the game is, how to win it, how we play it here at our shop, at our business, and why we're playing in the first place. If they don't have a clear understanding of any of that, then it's really hard to hold them accountable because they're gonna fail.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
You do that, and you can trust them to do what they need to do because they have bought in and they believe it and they understand it.
Yeah. And I mean, and also you have to give them the autonomy to be able to achieve those goals as well, right? You know, again, we tend to see accountability without autonomy a lot of the time. You know, you're talking about kind of the micromanaging and those kind of things. I mean, I would say that if you have a team you have to micromanage, you probably haven't trained them. So we're almost getting to wrapping up time here. I could honestly talk to you guys for hours, especially with this kind of topic. I think it fascinates all of us. I think it's something that we're all quite passionate about. So it's always good to meet similar-minded people. You know, we've talked about a few different things here. Obviously, we've talked about, you know, how do we recruit talent? How do we retain them, provide an excellent experience to our employees, and really, how do we build that winning team? Before we finish up, is there any final thoughts either of you would like to share? Is there something that came out of this conversation today that's got you thinking that you'd like to share before we wrap up? Bogi, maybe I'll come to you first on that one.
Yeah, I think the main thing I would want to say is I see this a lot in independent repair shop owners and just small businesses in general, is this kind of tendency to latch on to a particular guru or leader or teacher in the kind of coaching space and do whatever they say to do, right? And I yes, have leaders, yes, have mentors, yes, seek out learning wherever you can. But don't get attached to this idea that there's one single magic bullet or one way to do things. What we've been talking about throughout this conversation is about it coming from an authentic place, right? And very little of what we've talked about has been specific advice about do exactly A, B, C, D, E, and you'll be good, right? Really, the one thing that you need to do is be authentic and actually care and go into owning your business and running your team from a place of intention, with authenticity, with genuine care and compassion and concern for the people that you're spending so much of your time with. Don't get hung up on the management coach told me to do X, Y, and Z, so I'm going to check those boxes. No, focus on what is going to make your team happy and what is going to make your team successful, and how do they win the game? How can you support them in winning the game? And that is what's going to make you successful.
I love that. Yes, absolutely agree with everything. And it makes, you know, when you put it like that as well, I think that will probably sound a lot less overwhelming to a lot of shop owners and leaders as well, because sometimes as leaders, we can be like, you say, you get all of that education of you need to do A, B, C, and this, try this strategy and that. And it can get a bit overwhelming sometimes, where it's really, if you can just tune into that authenticity and you know, you got to imagine that you're going to have a passion for your business. It's your business. You know, let that passion show. Shaun, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I think what I'll say is when we were building our program, we had two teams outside the top 25, and we talked at the start about you got to decide who you want to win with. And for us, you know, we wanted to win with good people. And that came down to a conversation. What is a good person? Is that someone who's good at their job? Is that someone who's active in the community? Does that have a religious lean to it? And what we came up with was a question. And the question was, and we ask it in every job interview, is what is it like to experience you? Like if I asked you that, Lucinda, how would you answer that? What is it like to experience you?
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I would say firstly, it's probably going to be quite funny. It might be stressful at times, but overall you'll have a good time. I don't know.
No, hey, that's a great answer. And it's the right answer. You want to know why?
We'll edit that out.
No, it's lovely.
No, that's great. I say leave it.
Agreed. Leave it.
And that's the right answer. You want to know why? Yeah. Because you left some room for questioning. You said, I think I would, right? Yeah. And great leadership is denoted in humility. I asked the CEO of the biggest tire company in the United States that same question. His answer was, I'm the man. That's the wrong answer, right? Because the thing is, you have to understand, as human beings, we all carry divine energy, right? If someone were to come in this room right now, the energy changes, right? So what kind of experience is that? Like, are you a rushed experience or are you a present experience? Are you a kind experience or are you a condescending experience? When your name shows up on an email, right? How does that make someone feel? Because the fact of the matter is we gravitate towards people we enjoy being around. And if you're a good experience, you're going to get more done in that garage with less people. We live by that at Trackhouse. And in the last 3 years, only 3 teams have more trophies than us. Rick Hendrick Racing that has 525 employees, Penske Racing that has 425 employees, and Joe Gibbs that has 490 employees. We have 160.
Wow.
But it's because people are willing to come together, and when you do that, you create more with less.
I love that so much. That's a great question, Shaun. I like that you asked that and how you ask that. It's funny because a question that I like to ask shop owners a lot is, if your company were a person, describe that person. And it's a different side of that coin, but I think they fit so nicely together. Is this idea of, if you see your company as a person, who is that? What is their personality like? And everybody has to see it the same way. Otherwise, the customers aren't going to see it that way, and it's not going to be that way. You have to all be on that same page of who is this person as an entity, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I like, you know what? They're great questions to ask. Even just, getting to know somebody, they're great questions to ask, because it really, I think it also tests that self-awareness, and self-awareness is foundational, really, isn't it? Especially if you're bringing somebody on and you want them to be open to learning and all of these kind of things, they have to be very aware of themselves to do that. So awesome. Well, guys, we are out of time, but this has been an amazing conversation. I've loved every minute of it. Thank you so much, both for joining us and coming and chatting in the break room. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us. It was great meeting both of you. You're fantastic human beings. I love it.
Yep.
Back
Likewise.
at you, Bogi. Back at you. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Break Room, driven by ShopPros. To learn more about what ShopPros can do for your business, check out shoppros.com. If you like this episode, please leave us a comment or a review, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. The Break Room, where great automotive minds meet.